Good morning, wrestling fans. February 21st, 2024. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. Time to talk about AEW Dynamite tonight. Lance Brock here, welcoming everyone to this Wednesday morning episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. Hope everyone is having an amazing Wednesday today as we get ready for the huge weekend coming up, as I have been talking about all week. We have a huge pro wrestling weekend coming up with a lot of pro wrestling to watch, and now actually it has gotten even busier because Sunday night is the return of WWE Superstar Sunday on A&E with Biography, Randy Orton, and WWE rivals The Rock vs. Triple H. So that is even more pro wrestling action that we have to watch coming up this weekend. But hey, don't worry, I'm not one of those wrestling podcasters or wrestling journalists or whatever. Well, I'm definitely not a wrestling journalist, but what I mean is I'm not one of those ones supposed fans that complain that there's too much wrestling out there today. Because as far as I'm concerned, you can never have enough pro wrestling. So I'm not going to be like those ones who cry and complain about there being too much wrestling to watch. You're not going to hear me complaining about that. But let's get into today's episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans on this Wednesday, and let's talk about AEW Dynamite, which will be live 8 p.m. Eastern on TBS, and it will be live from the BOK Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And before Revolution, the AEW Women's World Champion, Timeless Toni Storm, and the Virtuosa Deonna Purrazzo are both set to compete tonight on Dynamite. Just as of right now, though, do not know who they will be facing as of yet. Also, the Blackpool Combat Club, Jon Moxley and Claudio Castagnoli will be taking on FTR, Dax Harwood, and Cash Wheeler. In a trios match, the AEW World Champion, the Samoan Submission Machine, Samoa Joe, and one of the number one contenders for that championship, Swerve Strickland and Brian Cage, will be competing against Hook, Rob Van Dam, and the other number one contender for Samoa Joe's AEW World Championship, Hangman Adam Page. And that is all what will be going down tonight on AEW Dynamite. Like I said earlier, that it will be live from Oklahoma, so I'm wondering, I know he doesn't live there right now because he's currently living in Jacksonville, but I gotta wonder though if there could be an appearance from Oklahoma's own good old JR, Jim Ross. Recently, he announced that he had to have a second surgery due to the cancer, but he did say that he definitely wants to resign with AEW, and also that he wants to be there at Revolution to call Sting's last match. I'm sure I probably have already said this on the podcasts already, and it's definitely nothing against any of the other commentators in AEW, Excalibur, Taz, Kevin Kelly, Nigel McGuinness, but I think for that match, it should definitely be just Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross calling it, because out of all the commentators in AEW right now, and there are quite a few, they definitely are the ones that have called the most matches in Sting's career going back to the WCW days. And actually, to be honest, I think that is what Steve Borden would actually probably want for his final match in his pro wrestling career, is to have Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross on commentary. But we will just have to wait and see. 1 week from this Sunday, the AEW Revolution pay-per-view. But first, we have to get through this big weekend of pro wrestling. I know I've been talking about it all week, but we got New Japan Pro Wrestling. The New Beginning is the Sapporo Show, Okada's final match in New Japan. TNA No Surrender is Friday night. SmackDown Rampage, as usual, on Friday night. Then Saturday morning, the Elimination Chamber Premium Live event. And Saturday night, Collision is back this week. Also, as I just said, now on A&E, got WWE Biography and Rivals coming back. So just more pro wrestling to watch. But once again, definitely not complaining about having a lot of pro wrestling to watch. Just, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the podcast. Like I've said, I still haven't decided whether after each show or each PLE to do a podcast, or just wait till the end of the weekend and just do one podcast about the whole weekend. I'm not sure yet. But that is all for this Wednesday morning episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by and listening today. I do hope to have a new episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic talking about tonight's AEW Dynamite. So hope everybody will join me for that. Also, hope everyone will be here tomorrow morning for the Thursday episode of Good Morning Wrestling Fans. And remember, in the comment section, you can leave your thoughts and your opinions on last night's episode of WWE NXT. And you can leave your predictions for all the big shows coming up this weekend. Or if you want to go there and just talk, discuss anything pro wrestling, you can right there in the comment section. Just as long as it's pro wrestling, that's all that matters. Either right here on Spreaker, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to 360 Wrestling Podcasts. Once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope everyone enjoys AEW Dynamite tonight, and hope to talk to you again tomorrow morning for GMWF. But until then, have a great pro wrestling day.